Hi friend, today I have a fun furniture makeover for you. My name is Cindy and I'm with ReinventedDelaware.com. I've teamed up with two amazing YouTubers, Denise from Salvaged Inspirations and Natalie from Array of Sunlight. We have a special offer for you and this is available for a limited time. I'll share all of the details down in the description. Now you can watch this little video and I'll show you how to get to the description area below the video. Let's get started with the makeover. I found this washstand at a local auction a couple of years ago. I think I paid about $30 for it. But I also just recently saw one while I was shopping at the Restore with my husband. I made a video about it and I'll have that linked down in the description as well. The first step to any makeover is to clean it, and I prefer to start with the vacuum cleaner because I don't want any little friends coming in to visit, if you know what I mean. Now this piece was just dusty because it was already in our house, but if you bring a piece home from the thrift store or from an auction, go over it really well before you even bring it in with a shop vac. Turn the piece upside down, take the drawers out, like the whole thing, just clean it and vacuum it. And then grab yourself some TSP cleaner. I like to mix mine in a spray bottle and get a microfiber cloth and look at all the yuck you're going to get off of that piece of furniture. Oh my gosh, I can't believe that this has been in my house for 2 years and it was this filthy. Anyway, after it's done and you've cleaned it, take another clean cloth and wipe it down to remove any residue from the TSP. While the washstand dries completely, it's time to choose a color. I wanted to use a gray color, and I know a lot of you might be freaking out that I'm going to paint an old piece of furniture like this, but you know, we all have different tastes. We all like different things in our homes. Plus, I have a special surprise for this piece. I think you're going to love the final look. While I dream about what color I'm going to use, I'm going to go ahead and seal this piece. That's important to do on old oak especially because there are natural tannins that will come through, and if you have a light color of paint, it's going to show through that paint. If not right away, even within a year, those tannins can come through. So it's important to seal it. I sealed it with Dixie Belle's Bonding Boss in clear. I know it's going on white, but it is clear. It dries clear. It also comes in white or gray, depending on your final color. I wasn't sure yet, so I just aimed for clear. Let's chat about one of my favorite products on the whole planet. It's this Scrubby Soap. I love this stuff. If you paint, you need this soap. I'm going to have it linked down below. Basically what you do is you rinse out your brush really well, and then you rub your brush over top of this surface. It has one side like a scrub daddy kind of thing. The other side is citrus, and it makes all the paint just release from the bristles. This stuff is brilliant. You need it. I've chosen the gray color that I want to use, and it's from the Dixie Belle line called National Parks Collection. It's called Glacier. It's this really soft gray. It almost looks white here, but in person, it definitely has just a hint of gray. That was just enough for me. I love to put paint on furniture. I know this is probably really crushing many of you, but hold tight because I have a really good look for this piece of furniture and I don't want you to miss it. So if you're the kind that, for instance, my husband and I differ on this opinion. I like painted furniture. He likes the wood grain to show. So the technique that I'm going to show you is going to marry both of those looks and make everybody happy. It's going to be beautiful, trust me. You might have noticed the joinery on this piece of furniture, and if you didn't, go back to the beginning of the video where I was rattling on about the special offer that I have for you. Anyway, the joinery is called Knapp Joinery. That's spelled K-N-A-P-P, and it's named after a furniture maker from the 1800s. He was well known for this kind of joinery, and I have a lot of pieces with this kind of joinery. I love it. It's a great way to date the piece, and yes, this washstand dates back to the middle 1800s. During that era, a lot of furniture was made with this same look that you see here, these side panels. It would be a recessed panel and then 4 pieces of wood that would frame it out. And there's a special way that I paint this. I also did my kitchen cabinets in the same way. But I like to paint that inset first, and I go around with my paintbrush and I get all of the edges to make sure that I have all of the edges covered. Then I add some paint in the center and I go back and I lay it off in the direction of the grain. When you're painting around edges like this, be sure that you don't get any runs. It's very easy to take that paintbrush and hit one of the opposing edges, and then before you know it, you have a run. So constantly be looking at the piece where you've ended, not where you're headed, but where you've just ended that last brush stroke. Here along the bottom edge, I've started to paint that section, and you really have to be careful here in the corners there at the inset. Now see, you don't want to run that brush that way because you're going to get a run or it's going to fill up that little corner. Instead, run the brush the other direction, and then you have less chance of getting a run or that paint pooling there in the corner of the inset. Once you have that little section, be sure to lay off that paint in the direction of the grain on the vertical ends of that washstand. For all of you wood grain loving people out there watching this video wanting to curse me for painting the wood, here's a technique for you. Wet down that surface with that misting bottle and then take the paint and just wash it over. You can even see it bleeding out. This thins out the paint, and this works especially on oak wood because that paint is going to settle into the grain. Just really get it in there. Grab a wadded up piece of paper towel and wipe off the excess. Now the great thing about this is, well, there's a couple things. You see the grain, and I love that. It tones down the orange that was so prominent on this oak piece, and it creates a fresh new look for this piece. It satisfies the paint lover in your family and the wood grain lover in your family as well. Since we use that water, the wood grain will be raised just a little bit. So grab a fine grit sanding pad and just lightly go over it, and that will smooth out the surface. I even had a little mishap, so I grabbed a stronger sanding pad and I removed all that paint. I like the edges to be nice and clean. Old furniture can smell a little musty. I mean, it's just the fact of old furniture. The thing is well over 100 years old. Give it a break. Let's add a little bit of smell good stuff to it. This is called Big Mama's Butter, and it is like a oil-based salve that has a scent. The one I'm using is called Orange Grove. You just use a chip brush, put it all on the inside, and it conditions the wood. It makes it smell really good. You could actually add this anytime to any piece of furniture that you want, and it adds just a light scent to the furniture that also makes the room smell really great. I thought this gorgeous floral romance transfer would look so pretty on the front of this little washstand. So I grabbed it, I laid it out the way I thought it would fit the best. You'll also notice that the washstand is laying on its back. That would make this whole process much easier. I decided where I wanted to lay it, and then I grabbed my scissors and I cut around the edges to make it fit. I'll get to that in a minute. In the meantime, my drawers were sitting inside too deep. So remember those pieces that I took off earlier in the project? I think I forgot to tell you about those. Those pieces would have held the washstand harp on the back of this washstand. Anyway, I had removed those at the very beginning. Well, it just so happened that if I put them on the back side, it would make that drawer sit just level with the frame of the washstand. Having that drawer front level with the frame is very important with the method that I'm going to use to apply this transfer. Now, I decided that I wanted this transfer to not only be on the drawer fronts, I want it to extend over into the frame. So you can see why it's important that they be at the same level. The best advice that I can give you for this kind of layout is to plan it. I laid down the transfer before I pulled off the backing paper, and I moved it around several times, just really thinking about where I wanted the placement to be. I laid it down, I walked away, I came in, I made some adjustments, I walked away again. I kept doing that until I was satisfied with what it would look like. Then when I decided where it was going to lay on the front of the washstand, I started to apply it, and I had to cut some of the edges so that they would line up even with the edges of where I wanted the transfer to lay. I hope I explained that well. Then all you have to do, like applying a transfer, is super easy. Once you've decided where it's going to go, you start to peel off that backing paper, and I peeled it off in sections because I didn't want it to adhere to sections of the washstand that I was not ready for it to stick to yet. Once you pull off that backing paper, it's going to stick to whatever it comes in contact. So think it through before you advance in this project. You just use the tool that it comes with and you rub it off. It's a rub-on transfer. It's that simple. You can see here that I'm working around the edge, so I'm coming off of that front side of the left of the washstand. You'll see it at the end. And I have to kind of curve around a little bit to get the transfer to come up onto the painted frame of the washstand. Now there's a gap between the drawer and the frame because of course the drawer is a separate piece. I'll show you how to fix that here in just a minute. But I had to cut like a little jog. I don't know what to call it, like a dart. In sewing you would call it a dart. Up there on the upper left, I had to cut a little section so that I could work around the curve. Then once all that transfer was laid on, and it was all adhered, I was able to cut and make the separations where the frame and the drawer are separate. And I used an X-Acto knife. I should have changed my blade right at the beginning. I waited, so I snagged a couple of spots, but that's okay because I like a distressed look. So for me, it worked out. I would suggest that you put a brand new blade in your X-Acto knife. That's the best way to do this. But I made it work. I just moved around the area slowly but surely. I used the rubbing tool to help my fingers, to get in there. And then I even grabbed a little artist brush, and the bristles of that soft brush pushed the transfer into the folds or into the crevice, the creases there between the frame and the drawer. And it just really did help that transfer to lay down. So on the front, on the front bottom here in the middle, I had an area that just had like a straight cut from the edge of the transfer. And I thought, well, I'll just take the same color paint and I'll try to blend it in and make it look as though it's faded through. Grabbed a little paintbrush and I did some tap, tap, tap to make it look better. I wasn't crazy about the look, and it was getting to be dinner time, so I marched myself into the kitchen and got dinner started. And while I was in there, I boiled the hardware. Yep, I put the hardware in boiling water and I added some apple cider vinegar, brought it to a boil, and I let it sit for a good hour as a way of cleaning it. Okay, so back into, after dinner, we had a great dinner, and back into the room, and it's time to go ahead and put the extra coat on the top. I'm still thinking about how to solve that problem around the bottom. This extra coat will help to protect the top of this washstand because this is going to be the most used surface and I want extra protection. That's why I chose to use extra coat, even though the Silk line of paint has a built-in top coat and a built-in primer. I wanted extra protection for the very top surface on this washstand. While that first coat of clear dries, I went back to this problem, and then I realized it wasn't that big of a problem because if you look at some of these designs on this transfer, they're kind of standalone if you cut them out separately from the rest of the design. So that's what I did. I cut out part of the design on another sheet that was very similar to the design that I already had on there. It would be big enough to cover over where I had tried to blend in that paint. So that's what I did. I cut out the design in the shape of the flower, and I knew that it would look perfect once I got this done. So I cut off the excess and then I applied the transfer just like I did in all the other places, and I covered up that area where I had tried to blend it in. All right, that problem is solved. Now let's get to the hardware. I want to make it look better. Once it was boiled and I rinsed it off and I scrubbed it really good with a brush, it still needed some help. So I grabbed this gilding wax and I applied it with a small artist brush all over the pieces, and then I allowed it to dry completely. Gilding wax is a great way to bring back the old look of this gorgeous vintage and antique hardware. You cannot find this kind of hardware anywhere. And if I have all of the hardware to a piece, I'm going to save it the best I can. And this hardware turned out amazing. I cannot wait for you to see the final results. Let's take a look at the before of this very orange antique washstand. And now let's look at the after. What a difference! Oh my goodness, look at the difference that the paint and the whitewash effect has, and that transfer. And look at the hardware. It is like jewelry. It is just like gold jewelry on this washstand piece. I'm thrilled with how all of it looks. The hardware, the transfer, and how it lays over the wood, as well as the painted areas. I love the lighter tone of the wood. I love that I can see the wood grain and that I have paint on it. You can even see that I had extra transfer that I could add to one of the side panels. It just looked perfect. By the way, stay tuned to see all of the images of this beautiful washstand makeover that I have for you all the way to the end, because I also want to share more information about that special offer that I have for you. I think I forgot to mention that my husband cut the backsplash to fit that washstand. Remember, there was the gap because I didn't have the harp. So he just cut a piece, I painted it, and we stuck it on there. It looks good as new. The top of the washstand and that whitewash effect is perfection. I love the look of it. I can still see the grain, just so pretty. Let me know down in the comments what you think of this furniture makeover. Be sure to check out my friends' videos, Natalie and Denise. You're going to love their makeovers too. This special offer that I have for you will help you to get the supplies that you need for your next furniture makeover. All of the details are in the blog post, and I have it linked down below. But this offer only has a few more days, so you've got to get on this. Make sure that you click that link down in the description so that you can have this opportunity for this special offer. I don't want you to miss it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.